915 High School Football Insiders out here at Eastwood High School with Coach Julio Lopez. Thanks for having me, Coach.
No, thanks for coming out.
For you, as you progress from playing high school football here, what got you into football? After college, what got you into high school coaching? Just go through that and your high school resume a little bit for me.
Yeah, just really blessed to be able to learn under a lot of great people. I played at Maltwood under Chuck Valise, who was a great person to learn under.
Great coach.
Did a great job at Maltwood. We had a lot of success, a lot of great players that went through there. From there, I actually was a two-sport athlete. I played baseball and football. Coming out of high school, I thought I was going to be the next major league, next Derek Jeter. So I said, hey, I want to go the baseball route. Went to St. Mary's in San Antonio. Wasn't until my sophomore year that I ended up at UTEP. And then while I was at UTEP for those 3 years, and to be able to play under that staff, I don't think people realize what kind of staff Coach Price had at that time. You got Jeff Banks, that's the ST coordinator at Texas. Guy Holliday, one of the most respected, receivers coaches in the country. Now isn't coaching anymore, but I was able to really learn under him. Aaron Price. Just the guys I was able to really, Robert Rodriguez, in addition to Mike Price and everything that he brought. So, really grateful for my 3 years there, grateful for the opportunity, was able to, again, become a starter. And I'm really grateful that they gave me that chance and that opportunity to be able to not only be part of the program, but be a starter when it was all said and done. And then from there, actually, it was Coach Price who kind of really jump-started my coaching career. Coming out of my senior year in 2011, he offered me a graduate assistant job. So that spring, I was a graduate assistant with him. At the time, me and my then fiance, but we were getting ready to get married, and she got a teaching job in town. And at that point, I think I really had to decide: was I going to go the college route and try to go that way, or was I going to go the high school route? Yeah. And at that point, I actually got my start here at Eastwood High School as a position coach. And then the rest, as they say, is history. At the age of 25, I was hired back after I had left to be the offensive coordinator at Socorro under my offensive coordinator at Maltwood, Polo Gonzalez. He gave me an opportunity as a young coordinator to go over there. I'm very grateful for that. And then the job opened here, and they took a chance on a 25-year-old. And, here we are 10 years later going into year 10 with a lot of success, a lot of championships, a lot of great players and great families that have come through our program, young men that leave us and have become success stories in their careers, some that have become coaches themselves. So, it's been a really fun 10 years here at Eastwood High School, and to be able to have my kids grow up here, to be able to be ingrained in this community the way I feel that my family is. We're just very grateful and blessed to be able to work with and under so many great people.
And I tell you what, Coach, I think I don't know that either pathway was going to be easy on a family, but I tell you what, I think high school coaching gives a little bit more stability to a family than college coaching. That's lots of moving and stuff like that. And with your wife having, lots of stability here, I think you made a solid decision. And I think the results are speaking to that as well. And that was a great segue. You talked about year 10. So it's year 10 going into 2024. And I tell you what, a lot of people are saying 6A is wide open. I'm kind of like, hey, to be the man, you got to beat the man, in the words of Ric Flair. And you guys, not just historically, but district champs last year, and I think it speaks to it that historically you guys have had lots of success in the postseason as well, making deep runs. So what can we expect with 2024 as we head into this 10th year for you, Coach?
Well, first off, to understand 6A, you understand every single year it's a dogfight. So every single year there's a lot of parity. Even if you have your top programs that are always kind of coming out in the top 2 or 3 spots, week to week, there were games that they probably should have lost. I mean, I can go back to even last year where we had a lot of tight games late that we had to really dig our heels in and pull them out at the end. So I just think in our district, when you don't show up, if you don't bring your A game, you run the risk of losing to anybody in our district. And so for us, we've been very fortunate, especially this run since COVID. COVID year, we were the district champs. 2021, we went to the Sweet 16, which is, I guess, ironic because that year we ended up as a 4 seed in 2021. But 2022, we shared the district championship with Pebble Hills. Last year, district championship outright. So it's been a nice run here. For us, we always tell the kids, we don't believe we ever rebuild. We believe we just reload. And it's no different this year. Now, all the previous success we just talked about has nothing to do with this year. And that's what we tell the kids. You can't rely on what you did last year, the last 9 years, or even as a staff. We can't go back and rest on our laurels from the last couple of years or since we've been here, because that's how complacency sets in, and that's where that's a recipe for a bad year. So for us, it's just business as usual. We got to take it week by week. We have a really tough schedule, especially in the non-district. We have some big games, and hopefully in those 4 games, we're able to come out really peaking at the right time for district. And again, we just got to be ready to go and execute week to week so that we get the results we want.
Well, I tell you what, you use the word fortunate, Coach, but I tell you what, the harder you work, the better you get, and the better you get, the luckier you get. So I don't know about fortunate, but you guys have been putting in some hard work here. And now, before we talk too much, I want to talk about some of the guys and some of the names. But if you just want to talk the logistics, I know the big game that everyone's talking about, no matter what their opinion is on it and why to take it, I think the biggest game this season for any team in any program is going to be your trip out to California. But I don't want to hit on the X's and O's of it, because the one thing I want to talk, Coach, is I don't think a lot of people realize the logistical side that goes into that. Because again, a lot of people don't realize as a head coach, it's not 90% X's and O's. It's about 80% managing logistics, managing personalities, which can be a interesting one. But just hit on that a little bit, the logistical side of what that trip's going to look like for this program as they go out to that big game.
Yeah, well, since I got hired, one of the things that we all have always done consistently with our non-district schedule is challenge ourselves in non-district, and challenge ourselves not just with regional teams, not just with Midland League, which we've played Permian, we've played Midland Christian, but more so with Dallas, DFW. We played Smithson Valley out of San Antonio that just went to a state championship, and then obviously this year, we have California. So, for us, it's part of our identity. It's part of what we believe we have to do in non-district. But like you said, I don't have a director of football ops at the high school level, right? So who's making those arrangements? It's us, and now I'm very grateful. I have a lot of support with central office, a lot of support on campus that, I'm very, very fortunate to work under the people I do. But when you're just talking about logistically about a trip like that, we'll leave Wednesday night, drive all night, get there Thursday morning. So you're talking hotel rooms. Our travel party, when we travel anywhere, is typically 92 people. That includes our 60-man roster. That includes managers, student trainers, our coaching staff. So that means that's about 34 hotel rooms that we're making arrangements for. You're making arrangements for early check-in, late check-out, because we check out Friday and games at 7, and then we're back on the road coming back. In that time, you're arranging, these are high school kids that are always hungry. So you're arranging 7 meals, and obviously with 92 people, you're not just showing up to McDonald's and ordering there. You got to have everything set out ahead of time. So, again, for us, it's a lot of work, but it's a lot of work that is necessary. The Bosco trip, people, I think obviously by now everybody has their opinion of it. St. John Bosco, this is only the second time that they have ever played a Texas team. For as successful as they are as a national power, the only other Texas team they have ever played was, I believe, 3 years ago when they played Allen, and they beat them 52-14 in Dallas. So this is definitely something even new for them. I think one thing that people need to understand about that trip is that not anybody can just go play St. John Bosco. And while on paper, obviously, you would say it's a big mismatch. Obviously, they have 4- and 5-star athletes across the board, and obviously perennially they're a top 5 program in the nation. But when we have that conversation with them to get this game going, there was at least a respect there for us as a program.
Exactly.
That said, you know what, this is a worthy opponent.
Exactly.
It might not be Mater Day or Chaminade Madonna like they have week 1 in Florida, but that is a worthy Texas program that again, if you look at their track record, look at the success we've had, that's a quality opponent. Yeah. They one that they feel, I'm sure that they feel they should beat, but it's a quality opponent. And so for us to be able to make that trip, to be able to get up there, to be able to experience that, to be able to see that in person, see all the and compete. And like I told the kids, you get into the second half with a chance to win. And we come back, and that's always been the goal, whether it was South Lake the last couple of years, or you get into the fourth quarter with a chance to win. All the pressure goes to them. You just got to get to that. You got to get to that moment. You can't shoot yourself in the foot. You can't turn it over. And if you do that, you show yourself that maybe this is that year that a team goes to an Elite Eight, to a regional final, to a Final Four, to a state championship. It's going to have to be one of those years that a team early in El Paso proves to themselves that they can hang with that. Yeah. And then late in the year, have that come to fruition to make a run. Because the bottom line is this. When you look at El Paso football, The level of athlete that we have right now is probably the best it's ever. It's one of the best periods it's ever been.
Agreed.
Great coaching staffs, facilities are upgrading across the board.
Yep.
But the reality of where we're at right now, El Paso at the biggest classification, so 6A, or the old 5A before we switched, there's only been 3 teams that have made a Sweet 16. It was us, Del Valle back in the early 2000s under Chuck DeLeese, and Franklin in 2008, I believe. That's it. Yeah. Those are the only 3 schools that have ever made it to a Sweet 16. Nobody has ever played in a regional final. Nobody's ever played in a Final Four. Nobody's ever played in a state championship. So I feel like that's why we take the approach we do. If we are going to be that first, you got to do something different in non-district. And while maybe the other people outside of our program, they don't understand the Bosco game, or they look down on it, or they look, the reality is it's another football game. We didn't schedule the Dallas Cowboys. We didn't schedule the Texas Longhorns. They are 17 and 18-year-old kids, just like our kids. And, it's kind of, I feel like it fits where El Paso football has been going. Look at all the youth teams in town. Where do they go? So. They go to Washington. They go to Vegas. They go to East Texas. And I think that's great that these kids are exposed to that so young. So the fact that some of those same people look down on what we're doing, it's kind of interesting. I didn't necessarily understand that aspect.
Yeah, and I tell you what, it's interesting because I was going to hit on that point. I call it exposure training. And sometimes anything can be looked at as exposure training, whether it's for stress purposes, whatever. But I think you hit on a little bit. A lot of the kids with a history in youth football, some of them on your team specifically, we hit on some of those names, had been and played in national championship level teams in Florida and stuff like that, and have those experiences. So when they get on the bigger stage, hey, if the stage isn't too big and the lights aren't too bright because they've got that exposure training and they got that positive stress early on. So I think definitely if you look at it from that aspect, the true payoff from that game isn't going to be in the win or loss column that night. It's going to be 1 year later, 6 months later, 3 months later, when it's a mindset change because you built that toughness and expose those kids to that stuff. So, and we'll talk about that. One thing I want to hit on is every year it seems like with 2024 for you guys, every 2 years we're going, who's the quarterback going to be? And then all of a sudden some kid we've never heard of throws for 1 billion yards, is probably on the all-state team, player of the week, for the state of Texas, different weeks. You got, individual players making big, statistical contributions night in, night out. But I think the big change this year for you guys is it's going to be a lot of the guys on the defensive side of the ball. First thing comes to mind is Conrad Joseph Garcia up front, Jonathan Hernandez up front, 2 guys that you can line up and down the line on all 4 downs if you need them to. You got the back end with a young guy like Jaden James, and those guys all have that history playing in the big lights, outside of the city. So I think they've been exposed to some big games. So if you want to talk to some of your other guys on the defensive side of the ball and on the offensive side of the ball, who are some names we should look for the troop this year, Coach?
Yeah, well, just coming back, if you jump over to the offensive side, I'll start with them first. I do agree with you for sure. I think the big premier names are on defense this year, and I'll touch on those right now. Offensively, from a production standpoint, we returned Alex Sanchez, so had a great year last year. 7 touchdowns, big target,
huge catch radius.
Yes, and so had a great year last year. We expect him to take an even bigger jump this year and hopefully exceed that production. We got Fabian Penalosa, who number 80 for us. Yeah, he's actually going to be switching his number this year, but he was on the outside last year. Had a great year as a junior. We'll come back as a senior. We'll move him inside. We'll have 2 guys on the outside in Jaden James and Jude Walker. Jude Walker is a name that I think people are going to really have their eyes open as to how good Jude Walker is. So we'll have those guys. We got guys like Aiden Manhart, Mikey Torres. I mean, just guys that are so solid. So that receiving core, again, it's going to be a great receiving core with a lot of depth. Running back wise, we returned, Jaden Martinez. So obviously we had Mad Max last year. Max had a great year for us. Jaden was able to get spot reps when Max was getting tired. And then the last game of the year against Eastlake, I think Jaden ran for about 160, 170 in his only true start.
Yeah, just 160 or 170,
no big deal, right? So, we're very confident in his skill set. He fits our offense perfectly the way a lot of our running backs have over the years, the way Max did, where he's going to do a lot for us out of the backfield in the pass game, a screen game, and then, again, just a nice little scat back that will fit what we do. And then, you go to the offensive line. Now, one of I think the biggest things we have to replace from last year was the fact that we had 5 senior offensive linemen.
That's
huge.
That's a big hole to fill.
That's 5 coaches on the field that we essentially had.
Yep.
But we are very comfortable with the size, the ability, the talent level. Bryce Ivy, Manuel Sepulveda will come over from the defensive side to play guard. You got guys like Christian Baeza, Jaden Quintana, Miguel Cabada, Sonic, Lazarin. I mean, you just look at them as a whole. Lorenzo Silva, I think as a whole, those 6 or 7 guys, very talented, very big, very physical, and will really set the tone for us. And then now jumping over to the defensive side, obviously, we got some big time playmakers on that side.
Definitely.
Jude Walker and Jaden James will be two-way guys for us.
Great.
Really will just depend on how much they can tolerate, as far as how much they're on the field. But those guys are staples in our secondary. You got the big boys up front between Conrad, John, Joaquin Tagle will be a junior. He'll be a name that people will soon get to know. Aiden Vera comes back from last year. Victor Araujo has had a great spring, great offseason, so he's ready for his moment this year. And then our linebackers, I really love our linebackers. I love Andrew Cintron, Zach Adams is going to make an impact. Diego Mendoza, our down safety Robert Rivera is a ball hawk, so he'll be a guy for sure that I think is making plays. But all in all, I just feel like this team, the question mark will not be. It won't be a talent question. It won't be a size question. It won't be a speed or athleticism question, because we have all that. I could probably argue going into this year, as long as we stay healthy, this is one of the most talented rosters we've ever had. The only question mark that we hope to answer in the first 4 games before district will just be the youth. The fact that a lot of those guys will have have those first 4 games to get their feet underneath them, establish themselves. Obviously, right off the bat with St. John Bosco, it's not going to get any better than that the rest of the way. So they get to see that right off the bat. And then the hope is, again, by the time district comes rolling around, that we've done what we've done, I feel like, every year for at least the last couple of years. I feel that we are a team that starts the year, I don't want to say slow, but we're kind of finding our identity. And then we really click, I'd say mid-year or towards October is where I feel like you see our best. And ultimately, that's what we try to do, because those are the games that obviously win district titles, set up your playoff seeding, and impact games in November. So again, really comfortable with the guys we got. Really excited for them. Going back to the Bosco game, excited to see what a Conrad and John can do against a 4 or 5-star tackle. Yeah. I also think that gives them and our guys as a whole great exposure to college coaches. I mean, when you send a college coach your film against St. John Bosco, what are they looking at? They're looking at you against the best in the country.
Exactly.
So to me, it's a great opportunity for us as a program, but also for our kids to show the caliber of athletes that we have.
Yeah, and I tell you what, Coach, usually I segue into your 2-feeder programs, but it's almost like you have a 3rd feeder program. And you talked about it earlier, because a lot of these guys that people say, hey, where does the Evan Minahares come from? What is he going to be able to do? Well, he's just been hiding on the JV level, because this program is huge here. Like you spoke on, 90, 100 people year in and year out. So a lot of those names, they hide 1 or 2 years down on the JV. People say, oh, this guy's a junior and he's just now starting. And then what does he do? Oh, he's all state, So, but let's take some time and let's talk about your 2 feeder programs. And if you want to hit on some of these incoming freshmen you got that you might be excited about coming from those 2 feeder programs, just shout those guys out now, Coach.
Yeah, so we're very lucky in our district. We're the only school that still has 2 feeders. Everybody else consolidated, so everybody has just 1 sole feeder. We still have our 2. So Eastwood Knowles and Eastwood Middle, for years now, going on 10 years, they do an amazing job of getting our kids excited and ready to go for us. And it's not just necessarily, I wouldn't even say it's the wins and losses as much as it is the fact that, to me, what the middle school is trying to do or should be trying to do, and ours do a great job of it, is getting those kids excited at what is about to happen for their high school careers and what they're about to come to, right? We have our night where they run out of the tunnel with us and they experience Friday nights here. We get their games here. Over the years, we've gotten a lot more games here of theirs where they get to experience Trooper Stadium. Yeah. So we're, for us, the feeders have been just great. And obviously, Eastwood Knowles is a little bit of a smaller school just by numbers. Yeah. But, you look at our 2 tackles last year, Braden Ellison, all-state tackle, 3-year starter, Matt Latta, all-city type of player. They're both coming from Knowles, so it's not just one school or the other that brings the studs or the athletes. It's both of them that do an amazing job with their staffs or administrations of getting them ready to go when they get here. And it's fun because you see all the little brothers that come through the program and all the little brothers at Eastwood Middle and Eastwood Knowles that are ready for their moment when they get here. I'm very excited about our freshman class. We got a group of kids that, God, I don't want to shout one out without shouting a lot of them out, but just simply because they are that deep. And I've told them in their summer workouts, they could be one of the best freshman classes we've ever had, just by talent, work ethic, the mentality. I'm so excited for that group. I'm so excited to see their 4 years and player development. Like you mentioned, it is a little different here, where for us, typically in a normal year, we're only carrying 3 or 4 sophomores. And even those sophomores it doesn't necessarily mean they're starting. It's just that's the only really the only 4 that we're carrying year to year. And I've only played 2 freshmen in my time here, and Noah Medina and Curtis Murillo. So 2 big name players. Yeah, for us, it truly is development. It's development by having success at the freshman level, learning our system, learning what we do. Some guys maybe make that transition earlier than others. But our JV has done a great job over the years too. They've won multiple district championships. They practice with the varsity every day, so it's not like they're not with. I mean, they're in varsity practices.
Gotcha.
But we just do a really good job in our program. I feel like our coaching staff does a great job of developing these guys from the moment they step on our campus to the time that they graduate and they leave us and hopefully go on to play college football. And so we really believe in player development. We believe in the way we do it. And again, we're very fortunate to have 2 feeders in Eastwood Knowles and Eastwood Middle on those staffs that year in, year out have success and get these kids ready to go for the high school level.
Outstanding. And that's a perfect segue to what I'm going to hit on next. And just talk me what it's like for that rising freshman when he comes to his first summer workout. What is that indoctrination program like here over at the Troop, where a guy goes from that incoming freshman first day of summer workouts until he's signing that letter of intent to go play college football? What's that kind of like, and what should a young student athlete or what should a parent look for as what that child's journey is going to be like across those 4 years?
Yeah, well, number one, I have to shout out my offensive line coach, who also runs our strength and conditioning coach, Nathan McCage. I played with him at UTEP, and since we hired him, I think he came on in 2017. He's been just dynamite. And that guy, I know I'm biased, but I would say not only is he the best offensive line coach, in my opinion, but he for sure, in my opinion, in town is the best strength and conditioning coach. I just never have been around anybody, at least in our town, that is as well versed as he is in what we're doing and what he's programming for our kids in the weight room, conditioning. I really rely heavily on him for the physical development part of a kid's journey with us. And I think that's what our freshmen see right away is like, look, if you just trust what Coach McCage is doing, if you trust in what we're trying to do, if you do the extra on your own as well, because that's always a big part of it, you're going to develop physically in our program. And then I just believe in how we develop kids as football players. So, again, that goes back to the coaching staff. Our coordinators do a great job at all 3 levels of keeping it simple, of repping what we're going to run. And so the freshman that comes in this August and plays that week 1, they're going to be running the same plays, the same thing that as a senior when we go play whoever we're playing. And I think that's important. Yeah. I think it's very important because then they're constantly exposed to your system. We're not changing our systems year in, year out. We do what we do. And so a kid that comes in as a freshman knows, look, I'm just going to learn. And by the time they're a senior, they have a PhD in our offense or our defense.
Should be second nature.
Exactly. So, again, that's a testament to the staff. Our staff does an amazing job. I have 2 great coordinators, Jaime Hernandez on the offensive side and Adam Dudon on the defensive side, who just do an amazing job for us and are great coaches, have been with me a long time. And again, I think the kids that come in, you see them leave as seniors physically developed, mentally developed, and as football players, I believe we maximize their talent.
Yeah, and I tell you what, you hit on a little bit earlier. You talked about losing 5 seniors from the offensive line and how those were like 5 coaches on the field. And some of the guys I want to hit on and give you a chance to talk about are those guys, you're not going to read about them in the newspaper on the stat line and stuff like that, but the guys who enforce the culture, like you said, the 5 seniors who are coaches on the field, the guys who are talking to freshmen. And like I said, I always had a coach who said every time an underclassman is doing something wrong, there's a senior who let him do it. And that was his mindset. So who are some of those guys over here at the Troop that enforce the culture and make sure that everyone knows that it's not just, we're not doing these things when Coach Lopez is around. Yeah. We're doing these things because that's our identity.
Well, Conrad for sure. Conrad, I think it starts with him. He's the enforcer. Yeah. He's the guy. He's the proven guy, and he, he's that guy that really, especially this spring, has taken hold of that leadership role in being more vocal for us. Yeah. Bryce Ivy on the offensive side, he's our, I believe one of the most physically talented offensive linemen in town. 6'3", every bit of 6'3", 305, can move. Really leaned out this summer. Had a great summer. But he's going to be that guy on the offense. Fabian Penalosa is our vocal leader with our skill group. Jude Walker has had a great offseason in being that vocal guy in the secondary. So again, I think for me, if you only have one leader, you're in trouble. Yeah. Right? It has to. Now, again, you have your enforcers, you have your guys that are elected captains and all that. But for me, culture, true culture, is everybody. Yeah. True culture is that sophomore holding the senior accountable. True culture is the underclassmen that understand my role as a leader in this program is just as important as Conrad's. Yeah. Because Conrad isn't always going to be around me. So if I'm that guy and there's a guy next, another sophomore or a younger guy, or even an upperclassman that is messing up around me, I have to be able to tell that guy that he's messing up and he's hurting the program. So to me, it's a culture thing. Culture is the most widely used word in any organization. Yeah. I think a lot say it, very few actually have it. I believe that we do here. I believe that we have a culture around winning, doing things the right way, holding each other accountable, and I believe that that's why you've seen the success that we've had.
Outstanding. And I tell you, talk about it, culture and work and results. The results are proven in the win and loss column. So take me through game day. What's it like for you? What's your pregame ritual when starting from when you get up on game day up to kickoff? What's it like for you, Coach?
Well, first, I had to have gotten a haircut sometime in that week. So that's one of my most important is just making sure, me personally, right? Like at some point, late night that week, somewhere I got a haircut. So that's number one. As far as game day goes, to be honest, here at Eastwood, I guess that'd be the one difference that you would probably see with us here compared to all the teams that play at the SAC or have an off, is that, when you play at the SAC or you play your game off campus, somebody's taking care of the game day set up for you. Mm-hmm. Here, that's all us. Yeah. So game day is actually pretty hectic. It's making sure the field is clear, the stadium's ready to go. We've sold season tickets the last couple of years, parking passes, so making sure our people are in place with that, making sure our announcers have rosters, It really,
Coach, I don't want to interrupt you, but let's shout out the announcers.
Yes,
really. and your media team.
That's right.
And they do a great job. Hey, I've watched more than probably 10 or 20 of the games. Yep. They do a great job. I think that's a great program. They do a real good job. So I wanted to take time to shout them out because, as you talked about it's hard to get in here without season tickets.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah, you got, first off, the voice of Eastwood, right? We got Julio Madrano, who's done it forever. And Coach Madrano is a great PA announcer. And then I'm glad that you hit on the EPAN kids and our network that runs the production of the games, because man, those kids do so much. Yeah. And Coach Bernal, who's actually on our staff, and Miss Delgado, who heads that team, they've just done an amazing job of providing an avenue for people to watch our games. Yeah. And we're really, to be honest, one of the few, if not maybe the only one that still does that. Everybody kind of went to a model when COVID was happening because we had to. We're the only ones that have really kept up with it. So that group will go to Bosco. They'll be able to stream the game, and they went with us to South. They went with us to South Lake the last couple of years, and they've done an amazing job. But yeah, game day around here, especially for a home game, there's a lot that needs to get done. Field setup, especially in the afternoon. After school, I try to break a little bit of a sweat before the kids come back. We do start our pregame pretty early. So for us, our typical pregame starts 2 hours before kickoff. So somewhere between the bell ringing after school and 5, I try to just get a run in, try to kind of get the last,
there you go.
Just go through the game plan one more time within myself. And other than that, though, there's nothing crazy superstitious that I necessarily have. If anything, my superstition comes post-game more than anything. But
okay, well, we're going to hit on that. So again, though, it's lots of work, but I tell you what, this is a heck of a home field advantage. I think it's one of the biggest in the city that I think you guys have. So now walk me through that. A post-game, we've got the big win because we don't celebrate losses. Yeah. What's it like after a big win for you personally, or as a coaching staff, or as a team? What do you got lined up after a big win, Coach?
Yeah, it's real simple for me, right? And, for me, Friday nights are the culmination of a whole week of work, right? But not just for me or our staff or our program, but just personally speaking, it's the culmination of a week as a family, for me.
Yeah.
And again, I can't do the job that I do without the love and support of my wife. She's the rock of our family. She's everything. And so for me, my post-game celebration is pretty simple. It's go pick up Whataburger and go have, a late dinner with my wife in the living room in the silence while the kids are already asleep. And believe it or not, nobody is as hard on me as my wife. She's the one who gets to grill me first on, why'd you go for it on fourth down? Why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? So I enjoy that time. But yeah, to me, after a game at home, eating Whataburger with my wife is honestly one of the most peaceful times of my week. And so that real simple for me. I'm a green chili double guy, so I got to get my green chili double. But yeah, it's just getting home to the wife and just really kind of sitting and talking and in the rare silence that you have in a hectic week.
And I tell you what, we hit on it a little bit, but spouses make a big sacrifice, not just during the season, because it's a lot of hours during the season, of course, that continues on Saturdays and Sundays, but it's also, a big sacrifice of time during the season. So spouses make a big sacrifice throughout the year. So that's good to get that family time in. But all right, Coach, I think we've said it. Big expectations for the program this year. Year 10, I think that's a big deal for you and your staff. The results have been there. Like you said, you've built a culture here that has results as well. So close us out, Coach. Tell everyone out there, if they're a seventh grader, an eighth grader, talk to those student athletes, talk to those parents. Why should they bring their student athlete here to play for Eastwood High School?
Well, I would just be talking to our 7th and 8th graders because I'd be recruiting if I talked to anybody else. But you know what? At the end of the day, we just don't, we do what we do. We believe in what we do. I have conviction about who we are as a program, what we do. We're not afraid to have our identity. I think you've seen that over these last 9 years going into year 10. And we're just we're in a sweet spot as a program. We've had a lot of success, a lot of things that have been done by trial and error, especially early on in my tenure. This works, this doesn't work. This worked really well this year, but maybe it doesn't work as well this next year. I think you go through that when you've been somewhere in a place for so long. You go through all those bumps and bruises and all those trials and errors to see what your true identity is. For us, you see it on our weight room, you see it any hashtag I use, it's find an excuse to win. When I interviewed for this job, that was the mantra we built it on. We were gonna, everybody can find a million excuses why this didn't go right, why that didn't go right, why you lost the game, why you didn't get it done. But we challenge our kids in our program to find the one excuse for why you are gonna get it done, and you do it. And so for us, it's something that we've built our program on. And again, I just think success speaks for itself. And the record, the championships, the number of players we've sent to the collegiate to the collegiate level to continue their career. Again, we've had a number of our coaches be able to advance their careers as well, become coordinators, become head coaches. So, for us, we're just having a lot of fun. It's a fun time to be an Eastwood Trooper. For our 7th and 8th graders at Eastwood Middle and Eastwood Knowles, they know that they have an exciting 4 years to look forward to when they get to Eastwood High School. And again, we hope that this year is no different.
Yeah. And I tell you what, Coach, the results speak for themselves. So it looks like the players and coaches have been finding those excuses to win, Coach. So good luck this year. Looking forward to watch you guys have a great season,
Yes,
Coach.
sir. Thanks for coming out. Yep.
Thank you. Boom.